today I appreciate you coming to hear about this buyer consultation best practice, perfecting the buyer consultation. This is just one method that I'm going to share with you. There's others, of course, that I can share in future calls. But what I wanted to do was really go over the buyer consultation, given all of the change with the NAR settlement date that just came up August 17th, and the true need to have a buyer consultation more than ever. Because what do you need to do? You need to get that buyer rep agreement signed. So before any tours, and the ideal time to do it is before you start acting like you are their agent already. Come with a consultative approach, learn about them, show your value, then get that buyer rep agreement signed, right? That's the goal. Okay, so let's dig in. Let's go. Okay, so first of all, you want to conduct these in person if possible, right? Sorry, I just got, first impressions, of course, make a lasting impression, and you're going to want to meet with them, obviously, before touring the home. And here it is. So in person is best, right? Because it builds rapport with them. It absolutely makes sense to meet them face to face. You can do this via Zoom if the buyer is residing out of town, right? Or out of state. But look, you can meet them at your office or at your virtual office location, like a Regis. You can meet them at the title company, your favorite title rep's office. You can meet them at the lender's office. These are all if they're local. It makes sense to meet them in person, however you can. It builds rapport, it builds trust, it shows authenticity, and you can convey your energy better, right, than over the phone. Absolutely. So the objective, this is a Texas-based form here. I don't know if all of you are in Texas or another state, but I'm just going to go with the Texas form. TXR 1501 is the residential buyer tenant rep agreement. That's the long form, and we call it the BRA. This is absolutely the form you want to get signed. If you're in a pinch, or if you're unable to get the long form signed for some reason, there is a short form, the 1507 in Texas, that you can use. And that is just to be compliant if you're going to show a property quickly. But absolutely at Radius here, we want to see this long form signed before, it needs to accompany your transaction file in SkySlope, and must be put into SkySlope if you are in a pending deal with a buyer. Okay, so something about this consultation. Some people don't like the word consultation. Hey, why don't rename it? You can rename it the custom home buying program. You can name it the VIP home buying system. That sounds pretty good, right? I mean, some people just don't want to be sold. They don't want to be consulted. So perhaps you'd get more traction with the VIP home buying system. It also shows your value. It shows that you put thought into how you work with buyers. So the step one, establish rapport using the Ford method. I don't know if anyone has heard of the Ford method, but it's really great for building rapport with someone that you've just met. So Ford is an acronym. It stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. This is why they're moving. And this is the big why is actually a slide on my buyer consultation deck that I do with people. Your big why. I want to hear all about you, right? Revisit their why. You probably spoke to them on the phone. I assume you have. If you are to the point of having a Zoom or an in-person meeting, you have spoken to them. You found out a little bit about their why, a little bit about, what they're looking for, and et cetera. So this meeting, this consultation call, is about deep dive. It's about asking a lot of questions and actively listening to their answers. And you can do that not just with eye contact, but also repeating back what they're saying to you, just for clarity and to show that you're engaged in what they're talking about and that you care. All of these things are conveyed. Okay, so the first part of it is family. So, okay, Mr. Buyer, to start, can you tell me a little bit about your family or the people who will be living in your new home with you? So, understanding your family dynamics just helps me tailor the search to what will work best for you. So, the client responds, and then you say, "That's wonderful. So, having space for family is important, and we'll want to consider that in our search." Occupation now. I'd also love to know more about your work or what you do. Is your current job or occupation something you'd want to factor into where you live, such as the commute or working from home? These are probing questions. These are, open-ended. They'll respond. Then you respond. Okay, great. I'll make sure to consider locations that fit your work needs. Recreation. That's the R in Ford. So what do you and your family enjoy doing in your free time? Whether it's outdoor activities or dining out or some other hobby. I just want to make sure your neighborhood has everything you need. So then they respond, okay, great. So I'll keep an eye out for neighborhoods with easy access to hiking so you can enjoy your hobbies without hassle. I just had a buyer consultation call this morning, in fact, went through the Ford method, and it was great because it really gives you this full overview of what the buyer, who the buyer is, first of all, what they're looking for, and their needs and wants come out of this conversation. And you want to practice these things. I mean, I'm just putting some basic scripts here, but practice casually in your own authentic tone and voice, asking about these questions. And so it rolls off your tongue in a conversational way. It's not like an interview, right? So then the D is dreams. So let's talk about your dream home. If you could describe your ideal living situation, what would it look like? This could be anything from the style of the home to the type of community you see yourself in. So then they talk on about their dream home. Well, that sounds amazing. My goal is to align our search with that vision as closely as possible. So you can find a home that feels just right for you. Okay, now we've gotten through that. That's a lengthy part of the call. Introduce now the VIP home buying system, or whatever you're calling it, the consultative piece. So you want to offer the customized plan based on their needs and wants. You will give them preferred vendors, a whole list of preferred vendors in the area. You will do an opportunity analysis of waiting to purchase or purchasing now. A lot of like objections. That's the word I was thinking. A lot of objections that we've heard recently in the last year is, oh my gosh, the interest rates are so high. I want to wait until they go down. Well, let's do an opportunity analysis of waiting until they get to this unknown low number again. It may never be there. Or the opportunity of going now, getting the house at this price, because home prices are going to increase in the future. That's just how it's going to be. So you just want to kind of weigh that analysis. Is it better to purchase in the next couple of months or wait a year? We have to decide. Also, you want to introduce them to your tech tools. So your website with the IDX feed, the search engine that you have on your site, and also property alerts, maybe your app, if you have an app. At Radius here, we have the whole Radius Office app for agents with us. So you're going to have an opportunity to easily write an offer on your phone or write a listing that's another conversation, but you have all of this tech right in your hand. So talk about the tech tools that you're offering. Also talk about how you're going to negotiate for the best possible price you can get for that home. Also introduce your contract to close process. Mention that you have a transaction manager or whoever you have that assists you. If you have a team, talk about your team. So these are things that you'll introduce. Okay, 3 shocking facts. You want to include this because shock value, right? Shock value kind of makes people remember, right, what you're saying. So you want to talk about who actually represents who. This is your opportunity to talk about the buyer broker agency and why you give fiduciary duty to the buyer and not the seller when you are the buyer's agent. You need to explain this whole process, right? You want to tell them who's going to manage all of the 100+ variables and hurdles that may happen in the deal. The inspection, home inspection comes back with a lot of scary things. The roof needs to be replaced. How are we going to deal with that? You're very experienced, right, to get through these hurdles. What about the appraisal? If the appraisal comes back and it's not what you wanted, it's not what you needed to get that lender, to get your loan approved. There's so many things that could come up during the transaction, over 100 things, right? You are the one who's going to manage that on behalf of the buyer. So see what you're doing. You're selling your value throughout all of this. The third shocking fact is that there's a lot of costly mistakes and consequences that could happen. A lot of buyers cost themselves a lot of money if they don't have proper representation. The average agent sells only 4 homes a year, the average agent. So if you're if you sell more than 12 homes a year, if you are a full-time agent, if you are part of the largest team in the area, or you're part of this massive brokerage that has a lot of business and production in your area, use those stats, those facts to say, look, you're going to be with an agent who is well networked, who has experience in this area. You want to mention your production history and mention your history. Definitely have a slide just on who you are as an agent, your accomplishments and rewards, and who you're a member, like what organization you're a member of. And if you've had some designations, you want all of that to be on there to prove that you are the best buyer's agent they can have. Okay, so turbulence during the deal. We kind of touched on this. Home inspections, like we said, property alerts that are pending. They may love this property and all of a sudden they find out it's pending and oh my gosh, what the heck? The appraisal, the financing contingencies, like the sale of a home, like the buyer needs to sell their home before actually purchasing and finalizing the mortgage on this new home. These are all things that could happen during the deal that you're going to help them with, and outline that, what could happen and how you are there to help them with all of this. Okay, buyer commitments. So you want to explain here that you are like what you expect from them. You want them to be available to look at homes, right? And you want them to be able to look at homes on the weekdays. You're not necessarily the agent who wants to work evenings and weekends. You don't want to work Sundays. You have family time on Sundays, or you're into football. You watch football on Sundays. Whatever, you may not want to work on the weekends, and you don't have to. As a successful, busy realtor, you do not have to work nights and weekends. That might be a shock, but you don't have to. So these are things that you want to explain, that there's actually a higher chance of multiple offers on any property, any listing, from Thursday through Sunday. So that's a reason the buyer would say, oh, okay, let's look during the week and have our offer in the quickest, right? But then otherwise, you just want to have some boundaries too. Buyer commitments, they're going to utilize your tools. Let's talk about their cash or finance. If they're paying cash, they need to present to you in the very beginning a proof of funds statement that you can verify. Also, a pre-approval letter rather than a pre-qualification letter, right? That takes 2 seconds to get. A pre-approval actually goes much deeper, and it makes sense to get all of that in and done in the very beginning, because you don't want to have any surprises with the finance piece, right? So be prepared to discuss why we don't show homes prior to having these items. You also want them to be responsive to the lender. I mean, how many times have you spoken to a prospective buyer and they just will not get in touch with your lender or any lender for a pre-approval? Well, let's face it, they're not ready, or they just don't want to buy a home. So we need them to be responsive and be very quick, because a lender may have an underwriter may have a request for, look, I need a letter of explanation for this one thing on your credit report. Okay, they need to do it that day. I know everybody has stuff to do. We all have jobs and families, fine, but they need to do this right away. Just explain it to them in a nice way. Also, and this just came up today, because I took on a buyer today who wants new construction. So I just said, okay, so this is my expectation of you if you happen to go to new construction model homes or open houses without me on the weekend. Definitely use our contact information and say that you have an agent. And just explain the fiduciary duty of that open house agent, which is to the seller, and the model home agent, which is to the builder. You want to explain that they're not working for you. Okay, so we've gotten to this point, right? Now we bring out the BRA, which is the buyer rep agreement. Okay, you present the agreement, and here is the 1501. Present it to them. Now, and this happened today. I was talking to a buyer for the very first time today, and I presented the buyer rep agreement. She said, let me review it before I sign it. Okay, we just had some early rapport, but let's give it a day or two, right? That's okay. But I'm not going to work for this person until that buyer rep agreement is signed. So up to this point in the consultation, you have presented your value, you've built rapport, and you've discussed deliverables, right? Now you want to discuss the service fee and the terms. The buyer I just had a meeting with this morning did not even know about the NAR settlement. So our conversation was really long, and I was telling her all about what it means as a buyer and as a seller in this new environment. And it just made me think, I need to have some marketing pieces that I send out to these prospects, that has a detailed analysis of what is going on and what it means to them. Do a quick 2-minute video too. You could do a video. So then you're pushing that out to everybody. And so you're not necessarily having to rehash all the basics on every single call. And this is, again, probably for the next 6 months. After that, everyone's going to get used to it. But there are still a lot of people in this country who do not have any clue about what's happening with the compensation in this country. So you want to discuss your service fee, whatever that is, and your terms. So understand, first of all, come up with what is your service fee that you need to get with every buyer, or that you desire to get. You will know your number. So talk about compensation, talk about duration of the agreement. I personally will not take an agreement less than 12 months. Look, me personally, I tell them they can terminate. They can terminate. They don't have to be, they're not going to be stuck with me for 12 months if they don't want to buy anymore, or if they have changed their mind. I have never had somebody terminate with me, a buyer terminate with me. But I say that because, look, this is a formality. We must get this agreement signed. We must talk about compensation up front, but know that I will negotiate as much as possible for the builder or the seller to pay for as much of that compensation as possible. You're just going to be very clear with them. You're going to be very compliant with the NAR settlement terms, but you are going to be open and honest with them about what to expect. Be very transparent. That's a part of this settlement term. So then ideally they will sign the agreement right then and there. Again, if they need a day to think about it, fine. But if they don't sign, oh well, they're not ready to buy. You know what I mean? You just have to be okay with that, because you've presented your value, you've presented the process, you presented what you're offering, and then you're also discussing deliverables. So up to that point, you've done it. Okay. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. My computer just did something weird. Okay. So now, after you've gotten the BRA signed, or theoretically, you are going to discuss the what. Now you're going to talk about their search criteria. don't begin the conversation with this, because guess what? You're going to be stuck in this zone for the whole conversation. You want to get the meat and the big stuff out of the way first, and now we can talk about, okay, so what are you looking for? Are you looking for plan A or plan B? Like location, condition, size, all of that equals price, right? So talk about the price. And if they aren't, pre-approved, price is kind of, I mean, it could be a non, it could be a non, I just lost my train of thought. If they're not pre-approved, they don't know what price they can even afford. That's what I'm trying to say. So you want to make sure that they understand. First, let's talk about search criteria, what you want, where you want, all that stuff. But let's also get you pre-approved. That's what we need to talk about, and then we'll be able to solidify the price. Okay, recap. First of all, revisit their why using the Ford method. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. The Ford method of building rapport with someone. Customized home buying program. Introduce them to the program. Explain 3 shocking facts of buying a house. Explain the turbulence that could happen in the deal, right? All those things that could potentially come up. You're an expert. You know how to negotiate. You know how to get through all of those waves and the turbulence. The buyer commitments, what you're actually expecting them to do during the process. And you've already said what you're going to do, right? So there's commitments on both sides. Talk about the fiduciary duties that you will have with them. Sign the 1501, that's the BRA for Texas. Sign the long form. And then discuss their search criteria. Show them your value. So you don't have to, if you've done this whole consultation right, they're not going to have anything to say about compensating you. This is what I'm offering. This is my service package. So there you go. And questions or comments? Sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. Okay, so if anyone has any questions or comments, please put them in the comments field here, and I am happy to answer your questions. And if not, thank you so much for joining today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.